What is going on, guys? It is WrestleGamia here, back with another video. Now, it was way back in the year 2000 when wrestling fans were first introduced to the Smackdown series, the game which would later morph in today's 2K franchise. It seems like a lifetime ago in both wrestling and gaming terms, with so much having changed for both since then. The former has gone from having the likes of The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin on top, to the Seth Rollinses and Roman Reigns of today, and the latter has been through 4 different console generations. Many current fans may not have been around to play the original Smackdown game upon its release, so for those who didn't, consider this something of a primer, and for those old school fans that did play it, let's take a walk down memory lane and maybe even offer a few surprises. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell, because today we're going to look at 10 facts you didn't know about WWF Smackdown for PlayStation 1. Number 1. Hidden Wrestler Faces. The limitations of the PlayStation 1 meant that the roster for the original Smackdown game was nowhere near as vast as you could expect from current generation's additions. This year's 2K game features a whopping 231 playable characters, but back in 2000, fans only had 36 to choose from. There were, however, a few secret characters that you could make in the game's Create a Wrestler mode, and if you looked carefully enough, a total of 12 could be made. The Dirty Dozen were none other than Pat Patterson, Gerald Briscoe, Viscera, Midian, Stephanie McMahon, Jacqueline, Stevie Richards, The Blue Meanie, Ivory, Earl Hebner, The Godfather's Ho, and Prince Albert. All of these characters were playable when going through the game's career mode, and after reaching certain milestones, gamers were able to unlock each character's face so they could effectively make their own version to play as in the main game. Yes, you could very well lead one of the Godfather's hoes to championship success, although in many minds there would be a champion to begin with. Number 2. An exciting name change. This has been mentioned in a previous video, but we feel the need to bring it up here again. The Smackdown franchise didn't go by that name in all parts of the world, as for some reason it was known as Exciting Pro Wrestling when it was released in Japan. This naming convention went all the way up to Smackdown vs. Raw 2006, which was the 7th entry in the Exciting Pro Wrestling franchise in the East. It's unclear why the name was changed, but Japan does have a proud history of wrestling and major promotions of their own, such as New Japan and All Japan Pro Wrestling. They treat our favourite pastime with a much more serious sports style, and WWE have never had as big of a foothold over there due to their more soap opera style take on sports entertainment. Perhaps they were concerned that the franchise wouldn't sell as well with the WWE's branding, although by the time Smackdown vs. Raw 2007 came along, this clearly wasn't a concern anymore as the series began using the same name worldwide from that point onwards. Number 3. Firsts. Developers' Ukes included a lot of firsts with their debut effort. Up until then, all WWE licensed games had featured health bars for characters, similar to what would be found in the likes of Street Fighter or Tekken. Here, however, these were removed and replaced with a bar that would build up until your character was rewarded with a finisher. This was a major change for the fans that had played WWE games in the past and took some getting used to. Another first were Titantron videos. This would now be shown during the wrestlers' entrances. Previous games had shown a graphic of wrestlers walking to the ring, but Smackdown shook things up by instead showing your character walking in front of their own personalized Titantron, giving us some funny comparisons between the character's real look and the in-game model. More firsts for WWE games here included special guest referee matches, as well as the introduction of backstage areas, something which had only been seen in WCW Mayhem up until that point. Number 4. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Gamers may be surprised to learn that of the 36 playable characters in the original Smackdown title, 15 are still available in the most recent edition of the franchise, WWE 2K20. Those wrestlers are the Big Boss Man, The Big Show, Christian, Chyna, Edge, Jeff Hardy, Kane, Matt Hardy, Shane McMahon, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker, Triple H, and X-Pac. And of these, 8 are still active or semi-active members of the roster if we include The Rock. It goes to show that for all the changes that have happened in the wrestling world since the year 2000, there are still some things that seemingly always remain the same. Some may find that fact comforting, while some may find it damning, but it's hard to imagine a WWE game without the likes of Triple H or The Undertaker anytime soon. It's also somewhat promising for the wrestling world that only 2 of these wrestlers are no longer with us today, those being the Big Boss Man and Chyna, as in the past the early death rate for wrestlers has been high. Number 5. Jumping Ship. Developers Ukes were no strangers to making licensed wrestling games when they signed to take on the helm of the WWE series. Previous to this, they had created Power Move Pro Wrestling in Japan, which featured licensed characters from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Unfortunately, when the game made it to the West, an original roster of playable characters was created due to the limited popularity of New Japan Pro Wrestling outside of its home country at the time. It's a shame, as we had to wait some years to have something even resembling a proper New Japan game in the West, and this game was reviewed well, with one reviewer even going so far as to say, if there was a game that screamed for a WWF license and a US release, this is the one. Number 6. Boys Club. The original Smackdown game featured 3 cover stars, The Rock, Mankind and Chyna, but it's the latter we want to focus on here, because with the exception of a couple of instances of Tori Wilson in a bikini slipped into the background, this was the last time a woman would appear on the cover of a WWE wrestling game until Becky Lynch broke that particular glass ceiling in WWE 2K20. Also, if you discount secret unlockable faces in the Creation Suite, there were only 3 playable women in this edition of the game, those being Chyna, Deborah and Tori, compared to a women's roster that dwarfs today in both size and talent. It's a small detail, but it shows the difficult road that women in wrestling have had to walk to get to that point they're at today, and we can only hope it continues to go further in the years to come. Number 7. Special Abilities. Here's a secret even fans of SmackDown may not know. There are some characters in the game that have special abilities which will come to play under the right circumstances. Some of these will affect the wrestler you're playing, as while others will only affect AI characters. One of the better examples of this is with The Rock, who has a special feature listed as Mankind Plus, meaning that if you're playing as the People's Champion or on the losing end of a fight, there's a good chance that your Rock and Sock Connection tag team partner will perform a run-in to help you out. There are numerous other examples of this in the game, and they can come in very handy if you're playing strategically and know which characters to choose from. We recommend you experiment with it if you ever boot up the game again for old time's sake, and you'll be surprised what you'll find. Number 8. Platinum Release. The Platinum range may be unknown to some modern gamers, as it has been renamed the Essentials range, but its purpose was the same back then as it is today. It took some of the more popular and higher selling PlayStation games, and re-released them further down the line at a cheaper price. This was done to help clear inventory for retailers, and includes some absolute classics like Crash Bandicoot, Final Fantasy 7 through 9, Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil and loads more. The original Smackdown game also had the distinction of being part of this class due to its popularity and high sales. Given the meteoric popularity of WWE at the time, this shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, but it's something of a badge of honor for the game, and one that would be shared with the sequel release Smackdown 2 Know Your Role. Of course, we'll look at those facts in another video. Number 9. A Never-Ending Season Mode. Now, much like the Neverending story, this title isn't entirely true, as the season mode in WWF Smackdown, a precursor to the 2K series' My Career mode, can technically be completed. However, it's damn near impossible to do, so much so that we doubt any but the most committed of gamers could manage it. The mode is made up of 2 parts, pre-season and season. Pre-season allows you to play as your own created character, going through a variety of WWF events, ranging from house shows to pay-per-views. Once completed, you can then carry these characters over to the full season mode, or just skip straight to the part with a pre-existing wrestler. Once played through, the pre-season mode could not be repeated again with that character, but the full season mode had quite the opposite issue. Fans found after playing a full calendar year going from WrestleMania to WrestleMania with their chosen competitor, the game allowed them to keep playing, unlike the finished story mode in the modern 2K version of the series. In fact, there were still unlockables being discovered as far as 20 years deep into the mode. If you're one of the people who actually managed to get that far, be sure to leave a comment down below. And number 10, Mighty Morphing Hands. Here's a fun one to end the video, as while creating a wrestler in the game's creation suite, choose the last available shirt listed as the grey robot torso. Doing so will cause your newly created character's hand to morph into different objects as you use them in a match, be this punching or simply taunting. It's the kind of cool little Easter egg that would have delighted fans who accidentally stumbled across it when they were playing back in the turn of the millennium, and it's exactly the kind of Easter egg that could be included in the modern 2K franchise to bring in some much needed fun, given the disaster that's been the most recent entry. But there you have it, guys. 10 facts you didn't know about WWF Smackdown for the PlayStation 1. You might be wondering why we didn't mention any removed wrestlers. Well, we're saving that video for another day, so be sure to tune in. Also, leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling video game content.